Maker, that mom with a laser here, and the wait is finally over. Your machine has arrived, you've uncrated it, you've filled the chiller, you've set up your exhaust system, you've checked your alignment, and you've connected LightBurn. Now what? If you're wondering, how in the world do I get this thing started? I want to cut, I want to engrave, I want to make all the things! If you're wondering how to make your first cuts, well, don't worry, I've got you covered. You ready? Let's go.
All right, guys, so here is my routine whenever I'm ready to power up my machine and get to work. It doesn't matter what laser you operate, whatever you do, you want to make sure that you turn on your blower. Otherwise, you're going to have a ton of smoke in the room that you're working in, and that's no fun. Don't ask me how I know. To do that, on most machines, you're going to look for a blower switch just like this one, and then you're going to push it, and you're going to hear the air starting to push out your window. However, if you upgrade your fan, which is something I did, let me show you. I actually have what's called the TerraBloom fan right here, and I like it because it fits directly into the machine. That's why I have this open so I could show you guys. So because I did this, I don't turn on my blower with the switch. Instead, I have a remote. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And there you go. You can hear it starting to push air out the window. Okay. Now that I've turned on my blower, now I can go ahead and power up the machine. Now, you can do that one of two ways. You can use a key right here, but I don't like using the key because sometimes I forget to take it out, and I'm always paranoid that my kids are going to come in here and turn it on, so I don't use the key. Instead, I turn it on with the emergency switch here. So I'm going to turn off the blower so you can hear me, and I'm going to show you how you turn it on. Okay, so this is how I turn on my machine. One, you want to make sure that it's popped out, okay? And then I just push in and twist. And there you go. She is powered on. Okay, so you got to turn on your blower and make sure you're exhausting your fumes, and then you power on your machine. The other thing you want to be sure of is you want to have your USB cord plugged in to the USB port. This way you can send your job over with LightBurn. So let's go ahead and hop into LightBurn and get ready to send a job over.
All right, so I already have my file imported into LightBurn. So I'm just gonna go ahead and double check that I have the dimensions set to the size that I want it for my board. And I can see that up here close to the top left corner. That looks good to me. Now I want to go ahead and make sure that I have this set to a fill. In the laser world, a fill means you want to engrave something. I don't want this set to a line because then that would mean that I want to cut it. In the laser world, a line means a cut and a fill means engrave. So I'm going to switch it back to a fill. The next thing I want to do is make sure that I have my settings correct. So I'm going to double click right here where it says speed and power, and I can see here that I already have acacia wood settings saved in my computer. I have it saved to the color yellow. So I'm going to be engraving this cutting board today at 220 speed, 50% power for my max, 40% power for my min, and I'm going to be doing this on my 60 watt Mira 7. I'm also going to check my line interval to make sure I get a nice smooth engrave. And if you want to learn a little bit more about tips for engraving, make sure you watch this video here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then the last thing I'm going to do is check my job origin. Basically, the job origin shows you where the laser is going to frame the artwork based off of where you set your laser, or if you have a red dot pointer, where you set your red dot pointer. So right now I have it set to a top right origin, and it looks like this when you frame it on your machine. So for example, I'm going to engrave my image at the bottom right corner of this cutting board. So I'm going to lower my nozzle, and I'm going to set my origin point right there to where my red dot pointer is pointing on my cutting board. So now when I tell the machine to frame my artwork, it's going to frame it from what would be the top right corner of my image. You can set the job origin wherever you want it. So for example, let's say we switched it up and we framed the job from the center origin. So instead of framing the artwork from the top right corner, it would frame it from the center. So I'm going to guess that would be maybe the center of my image, and that's how it would frame it instead. I typically like to work off of the top right corner. So I'm going to go ahead and switch it back, click send, and send this off to my machine.
Okay, so today I'm going to be engraving on a cutting board, and if you can see, this is pretty deep right here, and it's a little too close to my nozzle and my autofocus pin. You may not have an autofocus pin, that's okay. The point is, It's a little too high, and I should lower the laser bed so that I can get this in focus. So here's what I'm gonna do.
I'm going to start by pushing the ZU button, which is my menu. Once I'm here, the left and right arrow keys become my controls for lowering and raising the laser bed. Since I need to lower the laser bed, I'm going to push the right arrow key until I get it where I want. Now, if I were going to raise it, I would push the left arrow key. Now we need to make sure that we get our beam in focus with our material, and you can do that one of two ways. One way is to focus it manually, and to do that you'll want to conduct a ramp test, and you'll need something like a focal gauge just like you see here. I'll link a video below by my friend Erin, who does a really good job explaining how to do a ramp test. Another way to focus your beam is to use the autofocus feature if your machine has that capability. To do that, you'll go to the ZU button on your keypad, and then you'll toggle all the way down to autofocus. Then you'll hit enter, and you'll see your machine go ahead and focus on the material. Now all that's left to do is to pull up my file, frame it on my material so I know that it's going to engrave right where I need it, and burn. To do that, I'm going to select File on my keypad, search for my file, and then click Enter. I have this job set to a top right origin, so I need to move my red dot pointer down to where I want it to frame my job. Right here, that's where I want it to start. So then I'm going to click Origin, and then I'm going to hit Frame. That looks pretty good to me, so now I'm just going to gently close my lid and push start. Alright guys, we did it. Let's go ahead and recap. Okay, so we're going to go through my checklist, and I ask that you bear with me because I wanted to make this as thorough as possible so that it could help as many laser users as possible, whether or not you have an Eon. Before you run your job, you'll want to make sure that you turn on your exhaust system. You may or may not have to do this manually. As you saw with me, I have to use a remote to turn on my exhaust system. The same is true for the chiller. It may or may not power automatically. In my case, it did. You'll also want to make sure you turn on your air pump if it doesn't turn on automatically, or if you're using a compressor, that you turn on your compressor. Then you'll go ahead and turn on your laser. Remember, you can do that with the key or with the emergency stop. And then you'll want to set your material into the machine and set the focus. At this point, you can do one of two things. In my video, I showed you how to send the file over to your controller. Once I had it in the controller, I located it, and then I pushed enter. Then I set my origin for that red dot, and I framed my job. Once I had it where I wanted it, I closed the lid and I pushed start. Alternatively, you can also do this in LightBurn. So after you focus your material, you can set your origin, frame your job, close your lid, and push start or the play button directly in LightBurn. The controller method comes in handy when you have a file that you cut or engrave a lot. This way you just save it directly on the controller and you can quickly reference it whenever you need to. For example, I cut honeycomb pins every now and then, so I like to have the file just saved already into my controller so I don't have to look for it in LightBurn and send it over. Whereas the LightBurn method, you can send over the job, but it's not going to be saved on the controller for future reference. You'll have to go back into LightBurn to send it again if you ever want to use it. I figured I'd go ahead and turn this into a checklist for you, so if you want to print this out, just click on the link below and I'll send it your way.
Well, Maker, we're done. Now you know how to run your first job, and now you can go and make all the things. But before you get started, I have one last piece of advice. Right now, you've got high anxiety, and that's mixed with both excitement and fear. So you've got high anxiety and low knowledge, which never really makes for a great combination. So I want you to remember to just show yourself some grace. You're going to feel everything right now times 10. I mean, seriously, you may even turn on the machine and find yourself jumping just from the sheer power of it. So just remember to take it easy, show yourself some grace, and whatever happens, just remember, no, you did not break your laser. So go have fun, and I'll see you guys here soon over at That Mom with a Laser.